It is state championship weekend in Arkansas for high school football. This is the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hog Sports Network, joined by Erick Taylor of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. ET, man, this all started back in August. Now we are ready to play championship games in War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock.
It's almost a sad feeling, man. I mean, we wait so long for it to get here, and then it flies by, and it's almost done, man. It's been worth it though, brother.
Man, we had some incredible games last week in all classifications as these teams made their way. 7A, 6A, 5A, 2A semifinal games were played last week. This week, 3A, 4A have their semifinal games. But, ET, we're going to take a look at each class, all the big games that were played across the state, starting in Class 7A, where Bentonville beat Bryant 52-35 to end Bryant's 5-year reign as the state champions in Arkansas's highest classification.
Bentonville got their lick back, man.
They did.
And from what I can tell, they played really, really well, man. I kind of the week before against Rogers, a lot of what Rogers was able to do against that defense, Bryant's defense, I kind of thought that Bentonville may kind of mirror a little bit of that, and that's something that Quad Sanders was worried about following that Rogers game.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was he had a reason to be worried because Bentonville came in and did a heck of a job, man, putting pressure on their defense and putting Brian in catch-up mode, man. And, hey, hats off to Coach Grant and them Tigers, brother.
It was the 21-21 game at halftime, and Bentonville came out and put 2 quick touchdowns on the board in the second half. Carter Nye got hot. He hit Luke Coons for a touchdown. Then he came back, hit C.J. Brown for a touchdown. And all of a sudden, that 21-21 game is 35-21. And Bentonville, they didn't slow down after that. They added a couple more touchdowns after that. The defense played well in the second half. But, man, E.T., Bentonville has been a different team since Carter Nye's come back from that ankle injury.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And we said that, this would happen, that, once he got back, one of two things were going to happen. Either he was going to be a little salty or a little rusty, so to speak, or he's going to come back better than what he was. And I think the latter is what we've seen from that kid since that injury, man. I mean, those guys have been rolling since then.
Yeah. So he ended the night 4 touchdown passes, 238 yards. Bentonville returning to the state championship game. They were in the championship game last year. Bryant took them did this, E.T. They said – so Bentonville's ready to get back to the championship game, and they haven't won a title in a long time. So, E.T., I think I'm right about this, and somebody better than me, which that bar's not that high. But anyway, somebody better than me could look this up. But I think the last school let me try to rephrase this. The last team from a city that has split high schools, meaning more than one high school, the last state champion from a school like that, from a district like that, was Springdale Harbor in 2009. Since that time, only towns with one school have won state championships in Class 7A. North Little Rock, Bryant, multiple times, and that's in Fayetteville. So no school from no team from a town with multiple high schools like Bentonville, Rogers, that level have won a state championship.
I believe you're right. I'm not sure statewide, but as far as the 7A, that
7A.
sounds about right.
Yeah, in 7A.
Harbor won. I think who did Harbor beat? Was it Southside
I think so,
or Rogers or somebody? Maybe in Fayetteville. I can't remember who it was in the title game that year. But I think that's right, man. I had to double check, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, I was beginning to wonder if it would ever happen, and it still hasn't happened because their opponent in the state championship game this week, Fayetteville 24, Conway 21.
Another game that we all knew would be a barn burner, and it was, from what I can tell. It went about how I thought it would. I thought Fayetteville would have enough to end up holding on late, and they did. But, I mean, great game from both sides, from what I can tell.
It was, but I thought it might be 44-41.
Yeah, instead of 24-21.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Nathan Catchell, big 27-yard field goal for Fayetteville with about 5 minutes to go. Fayetteville defense. We've talked about their defense all year long, how Casey Dick really has liked the way his defense is played all year long. They proved again. They held Donovan Amolo, the outstanding quarterback at Conway, held him in check pretty much in this game and were able to get the win at home. Man, and Fayetteville's won. Now they've won 2, relatively close playoff games this year, and they are going into the state championship game on Saturday undefeated.
And we know what Drake Lindsay and Delamar and all those guys can do offensively. But like you said, we talked a little bit about the Bulldogs defense this year, man, and to hold that offense and that quarterback to just 21 points.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to like your chances. If you would have told Casey Dick that Conway's just going to have 21 points, I'm pretty sure he'd like his team's chances as well.
Yeah.
And that defense stood tall, especially late when they had to make a play, and they did, man. They're going Little Rock for it.
Yeah, I think the big difference too in Fayetteville this year and maybe in past couple of years is they actually have a run game now. Christian Setzer has put together, about 3 or 4 straight big rushing games for Fayetteville, so they're not as one-dimensional as a lot of people might think that they are, where, Lindsey's throwing it all over the field. He's still going to throw the ball a lot, and he was 20 of 29 the other night for 175 and a couple of touchdowns. But Christian Setzer had 125 yards rushing and scored their first touchdown. It's the second or third or fourth game in a row with him over 100 yards. So they can line that football up and run it down your throat if that's what they need to do.
It's just another weapon. I think we talked about this, I guess, probably about almost a month ago, about getting that running game going, and it just gives them an added weapon,
no doubt,
to what they already have. It makes defenses kind of play honestly, and it helps with your play action and things like that. But when you got a guy that can churn out yards like that, it makes it that much easier to call plays. So,
well, it's demoralizing.
Makes it favor that much better.
Yeah,
to be honest,
it's just demoralizing to another team's defense for someone to just run the ball, repeatedly like that, and wears them down, wears the defense down, and that's what Fayetteville's doing. So, man, they're really balanced right now. This is going to be a great championship game. Bentonville versus Fayetteville, the two Villes going at it, and I think they've played. It seems like 4 or 5 times in state championship games, and we're going to see that again. Hadn't seen it in a while, but we're going to see it again Saturday down in Little Rock. So down in 6A, man, the shocker, I think, maybe not a shocker, it might not be a shocker, but to me kind of a stunner. Little Rock Christian 42, Benton 35.
I was talking to Coach Nethery, Ben's AD, used to be a longtime football coach, I think the day before, about this game, and I'm with you, man. I kind of thought that Benton would pull this game out, particularly at home. But again, we say it all the time. That's why you play the game. And Little Rock Christian, not like Little Rock Christian, a slouch, right?
No, not at all.
But they went over and handled the business. Those teams played during the scrimmage earlier in the year, and Christian kind of had their way. But I thought, most of us probably thought this too, that Benton would have enough to get it. But hey, Christian showed us that hey, we're here, and they went over there, took care of business, man. Made a big play defensively late.
Came in,
kind of stopped that game away.
Yeah, came in and punched the ball out there late in the game, and got a big turnover and ended up winning. Big game for Walker White, the quarterback at Little Rock Christian, who's committed to Auburn. Passed for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, ran for 2 touchdowns, so he accounted for 5 touchdowns for Little Rock Christian in this one. Now, I don't know if you saw this or not, or if you've been keeping up with it, but with that win, Little Rock Christian now has enough equity points where they're going to be bumped up to Class 7A.
7A, man. Yeah, I saw that, and I kind of smiled. I was like, wow. They talk about a challenge, But if anybody's up for it, man, I think Kohu and those guys are.
Well, let me tell you, the domino effect of what this is going to happen is when they go to 7A, that's going to knock Fort Smith's South Side down to 6A.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to look so odd for me, because when you think of Southside, you think of the state's biggest classification, man. It's going to be odd to see those not bumped down.
Yeah. So interesting. The other semifinal game, no surprise, Greenwood 56, PA 26. Kane Archer, another big game for Greenwood, that sophomore quarterback. He took over the program this year. Last year was kind of an understudy, and this year it was his team. This is his team. Had a big game, 19 of 23, 200 yards, counted for 6 touchdowns in this game.
It's amazing, man. That score, I wasn't really shocked at it. I mean, PA has dealt with so much this year before the year even started, really, to be quite as honest with you, man. And they did a good job just getting back to that point. But Greenwood is tough, man. It's tough to beat Greenwood anywhere, neutral field, wherever you're playing, but it's almost impossible to beat them on their home field.
Yeah.
They play at a different level when they're in front of their fans, man. And like you said, Kane Archer. I mean, what more can you say about a kid that's like a sophomore? I mean, he's still got 2 years left to wreck team's season, so to speak, man. And he's doing what he's doing all year long, man.
Absolutely. This will be the first time since 2013 Pulaski Academy will not play in a state championship game.
Man, that's a long time, man. That says a lot about their program, but that's a long time, man.
Yeah. So a couple of big things fell this weekend with Bryant's 5-year stranglehold on the 7A, Class 7A winning championships, and PA, a decade of playing for state championships. And but things change, man. Things change, and it wasn't going to go on forever. And congratulations to Greenwood, Little Rock Christian. That's should be a great championship game. I would say a lot of points, but I hadn't been correct on that. On some of these games, we thought was going to be high scoring. So whatever. But it's probably going to take 35 to win that game.
I would almost put money that a team is going to have to be 5 touchdowns scored for the winning team.
Yeah,
I don't expect any kind of defensive slugfest in that one at all. It's going to take some points to get that one done.
In Class 4A, we're going to have a rematch for the state championship. Shiloh Christian knocks off Pine Bluff 49-41. Little Rock Parkview 42. Camden Fairview 13. For Shiloh, Bo Williams was back. He had full strength, and that was not good news for Pine Bluff Friday night.
Good news, man. I was down at a 4A at Rivercrest in Arkadelphia, but I had a guy call me after that game, and he, of course, in Pine Bluff's my hometown, and he's a former Zebra, and he was talking about the game, and he mentioned, hey, he didn't know who Bo Williams was, but I told him beforehand that Shiloh has a top-notch stud running back, and he came in, he was like, man, he just wore them down second half.
275.
Once Shiloh caught up, I mean, it was almost like you weren't taking it from him, and that kid's special, man.
275 and 5 TDs for Bo Williams.
Man, that's amazing.
For Parkview, the number one overall team in the state, no question about it. The defending state champions, they've won their 24th game in a row. They jumped out to a big lead and never looked back. Monterio Elston, big game. O'Marion Robinson, big game. Cam Settles, big game. So on and so on and so on and so on for Parkview. Man, the Patriots, they don't stop.
They don't stop, man. It's whole hum for those guys, man.
Yeah.
For a while, Fairview was hung with them for a while. I think about a quarter and a half until Parkview just like, okay, we're done, and we're going to go ahead and do what we do.
Let's click it on, man. Let's click it on. That should be a good championship game. Last year was a good game. Parkview's defense was huge in this game last year, and they were able to Bo Williams still had a good game last year in the championship game. I don't know if you were there or not, but he had a good game for Shiloh, but they took Eli Wisdom, they took that quarterback out of the game last year and made him pretty one-dimensional. And we're going to see, how that Shiloh freshman quarterback, how he responds, because Parkview they are going to bring the heat.
He's going to see some pressure that I guarantee he hadn't ever seen in his football days from this Parkview defense. And like you said, last year, I think, going in, that was, I believe, Coach Bowden, their mindset was to not allow Eli Wisdom to beat them. As long as we slow him down, then I think we could get away with everyone else doing their thing. And this year, I wonder if, they're going to I'm almost certain they're going to bring the pressure on the quarterback. But I guarantee you they want to kind of not allow Bo Williams to get off as well, in this one. So it's going to be interesting, man.
Yeah. Class 4A, these were quarterfinal games. Warren, no problem against Ozark, 45-7 there. Their freshman quarterback, man, Jackson Denton, what a great season this kid has put together.
Exactly, man. It was 9-9, I believe, is what he was for 233 or whatever.
250.
Man, every pass he threw up was caught, and almost half of them were touchdowns.
Man.
Wow.
Harding Academy, they roll. They're speaking of quarterbacks. Owen Miller, 18 of 19 for 268 and 5 TDs. Man, they just rolled over Ashdown.
They hadn't slowed down one bit, man. They got a bump in the road last week for a little while against Malvern in a rematch, and they woke back up this week, man, and put all aside in this last game against Ashdown, man. I think it was close for about a quarter, and then they pretty much took off after that, man.
How about my man Deshaun Chairs over at Elkins, man? 250 yards rushing, 5 TDs. The Elks just routed CAC.
You know what? I think out of all the games last Friday, the margin of victory from that one kind of surprised me. I thought Elkins would win, but to win by 50. That was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
And Deshaun's been doing that a long time in Elkins, man, and he saved his best moments when they really need him, and they needed it last week, and they got it.
And you were at this one, Rivercrest, Arkadelphia, big game for Kobe Turner in that game.
Another one that would kind of surprise me a little bit. But again, that was another rematch from last year that those teams played in the same exact round, same exact field. But Rivercrest kind of took it to him from the jump. They weren't going to allow Arkadelphia's quarterback, who's really good, Kate McBride, get off. They kind of shut him down for the most part. And then Kobe Turner and that offense got rolling, man. And they couldn't slow him down. For every time they would stop him for maybe a yard loss or a yard gain, he would break one for 8, 9, 10 yards the other way. And he pretty much did it all night, man. And hats off to Coach Fleming and Rivercrest team, man. They looked really, really good. And they'll have a home game in the semis this week, man. So, hey, we could see them in the Rock next week, possibly.
Absolutely. Going down to 3. How about Mansfield, man? They, went on the road for the second week in a row, jumped on that Yellow Dog bus, went down to Salem and got a win. They're in the semifinals. So, congratulations to the Tigers.
Man, I don't know how far this is their first possible semifinal.
As far as I can remember, it is. I don't remember them going this far before.
Man, I mean, again, hats off to that group, man. Again, like you said, going on the road and getting it done. That says a lot about what they've done as a program, not only this season but beforehand, preparing for what they're doing right now, man.
Yeah.
So shout out to those guys.
Man, Jeremy Strozer ran for 2, passed for 1 for Mansfield. The Tigers over Salem. Boonville. No surprise here. Big win over Camden Harmony Grove. Dax Goff. There you go. There go that man again.
does what he just does, man.
Yeah.
He seems like he's been there forever. But again, another big game from him when they needed him. I think Ryland Ray had a good game as well. But
that ain't good news. That ain't good news for everybody else in 3A. Ryland Ray's he back.
That's horrible news for everybody else, man. When those guys are going, usually when those two guys are running that way, you're not going to beat Boonville. And again, I mean, it's tough to just handle one. When you got two guys that can get it done like that, man, out of that offense, it's scary.
They come at you relentless, man. How about the Curly Wolves of Prescott got a big win, man? Genoa Harris, almost 200 yards rushing. Pierce Yates also had a big game for the Curly Wolves.
It was almost holds on with those guys. They got the test they needed last week against Fordyce, I believe, and they come back and put it all together again when it needs to put it together in this game, man. Again, they do what they do. No surprise there whatsoever. And I think we may be on a collision course, but again, you never know. You never know what happens.
Yep.
Coming up, man. But I mean, no surprise for what Prescott did last week.
Another big win for Glen Rose, man. They just keep rolling, man. Heath Balance, Lane Franks, big games for Glen Rose, man. These Final Four teams in 3A. Yes. Man, they're good. They're good teams.
And again, Glen Rose is another team that kind of been overshadowed a little bit all year, but they've been good all year. I think they returned, when the year started, more starters than anyone in 3A. So it's no shock that they're where they are right now whatsoever. And they've consistently been good for a long time. Man.
Yeah, great
again,
program.
To see what they've been able to do, it's no shock at all that they've got to the semis. Honestly, I kind of expected them to get to this point. So it's a great job by what those guys have done, man.
Absolutely, man. Class 2A, man, Cinderella season ended for Mark Tree, but what a great run they had as Bigelow gets a 36-20 win there to go to the state title game. It was never really close. EA jumped out 22-0, and Mark Tree, got in the hole, couldn't get back out of it.
Couldn't get out of it, man. But again, another great job by that Mark Tree program. Now they can turn their attention to basketball because they're going to be a really, really good basketball squad. But again, congrats to what Mark Tree was able to do. And again, Bigelow, they again, another one of those programs that's been consistently good for a long time, man, and get to this point, they're one step closer to get into a title game, man.
The dude,
I take that back. They're actually in the title game, man.
Yes,
so,
yeah.
Hey, just a great job what Coach Starks has done with those guys.
The dude I want to see play is Dennis Gaines at East Poinsette County, man. I want to watch that dude run the football this week.
Man, he's been a rock for that program, man. I saw something the other week where he had this streak of 150-plus yard games or something like that. It's just amazing. And then last week, that he get the late touchdown to put him on top.
Yep.
Man, and the guys, again, he's one of those guys like a Dax Goff that seems he's been there just forever and has been doing what he does week in, week out forever. And so it's no shock that he's doing what he's doing. Again, East Poinsette, another great job they've done all season to get to the championship game.
And when you beat Carlisle, you've done something. But, man, Dennis Gaines, 193 yards, 4 touchdowns in that game. Bigelow is going to have their hands full with that dude.
Yes, exactly, man. I guarantee you they're going to put most of their eggs in trying to slow down.
Well, good luck
in the games, because usually if you can slow him down, you got a good chance of winning. I mean, East Poinsette has a couple other good really backs as well, but he's the head of that snake for that squad, man.
He is. So, ET, out of all those big names that I threw out there, big weeks for all those guys, who is your player of the week?
Deshaun Chairs, and we were just talking about Dennis, and I was thinking about Dennis possibly being the Jackson Den down at Warren, the freshman, who was perfect last week, perfect quarterback rating. But Deshaun Chairs, man,
Yeah.
I mean, in that game to come down in that atmosphere, those two teams where we both were expecting a lot of points to go, he held up his end of the bargain. Elkins did as well. But Deshaun, I don't know what his stats is, but he's got to be knocking on, I don't know, 1,900 yard rushing, if not more.
He has scored 20 touchdowns in the playoffs.
20. That's sick, man. That's sick. No matter what class you're in, no matter who you, that's ridiculous, man. But again, the work that kid puts in the offseason, I see a lot of his stuff that he posts on X and things of that nature. But he puts the work in.
He does.
And again, like I said, I've saying this since week one, that Elkins team was scary, with what they've got over there. And again, he's one of those guys that have to be accountable every play.
Yeah.
I mean, because he can get out the backfield, he can line up in the slot, go wide. He's going to produce, literally.
And Elkins got
he's player of the week this week, man.
They got so many weepons. Elkins does. Dizzy Dean weapons, and he throw into his brother and a bevy of receivers, and then you back off the line of scrimmage to try to cover that passing game, and then Deshaun Chairs are going to tear you up.
Literally, man, literally. And that's kind of what happened, this past week, man.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break right here, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Richard Davenport. We're going to talk a little recruiting. This is the Eye on Preps podcast. We'll be right back.
Get the latest breaking news on all Arkansas Razorback sports at WholeHogSports.com. Our award-winning reporters and photographers go beyond game recaps to bring our subscribers the most trusted Razorbacks news anywhere. With expert analysis, the latest in recruiting, plus unique and compelling stories of your favorite teams. Subscribe today at WholeHogSports.com.
And welcome back to the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hog Sports Network, and I'm joined now by my main man, Richard Davenport. We're going to talk a little Arkansas recruiting. And RD, do we have any word on who the new OC is going to be yet?
Man, I think it's going to happen sometime this week or later in the week. I just don't see it dragging on very long. Coach Pittman's kind of alluded to that, and things that I've heard, it could be anywhere from today to Wednesday, but later in the week wouldn't be surprising either. You know how these things go, that you're trying to get a coach from another school, and if they're still playing, there's back and forth negotiations as far as when he'll leave, and it can be announced and stuff like that, because that other school's got to be concerned about the impact it's going to have on them. So I think that's what what we're going through right now.
I saw Brennan Marion's name tossed out there as a possible candidate. Man, I don't know what Arkansas's chances of getting that guy are, but that he's a dude. He's a dude. And he would be a big-time recruiter.
And I've heard the Georgia Tech guy, and I've heard a couple others. It's nobody in particular that I can say for sure.
Now, if they could get the Georgia Tech guy and him bring Haynes King with him, that'd be a good package deal right there.
Yeah, and here's the deal. Haynes King visited Arkansas. I know at least once. I think twice, and I know at least once. He was recruited by Chad Morris and his staff, so he's familiar with Arkansas, getting closer to home. So, if KJ Jefferson doesn't come back, which I don't anticipate him coming back, I think he's going to go pro. I could be totally wrong, but you probably want to bring in somebody else just to have at least 3 guys going through spring. Well, it'd be 4 with KJ Jackson. He's going to enroll, the freshman from Alabama. He's going to enroll in January. So, but to have 3 guys that 4 guys, but really 3 older guys compete and try to get that position.
Richard, I think Arkansas has had a pretty good success with Longview, Texas guys coming here. I'm just going to mention Fred Talley.
Fred Talley,
yeah,
yeah.
And Lloyd
Fred
Phillips.
Talley,
I think he was
he's
okay.
one of the most underrated Razorbacks of all time. I really do. I think pound for pound, I mean, he was a tough son of a gun, and obviously very, very elusive, great speed, and probably one of the guys that if I was going to pick maybe 4 or 5 great running backs in my lifetime, he might be one of them.
Yeah. I'd also mentioned even going back farther than Fred Talley, E.D. Jackson from Kilgore, right outside of Longview, Lloyd Phillips from Longview. So they've had, Sparky Hamilton from Lufkin. They've had good success from East Texas players, but that's a lot of speculation and that kind of thing. But I'm just saying there's been a little history there if they wanted to go that route.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's that wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, he's obviously done well at Georgia Tech. He came from Texas A&M, and sometimes guys just need a different surroundings, different coaches to help him, maybe see their potential, and maybe that's the case with obviously with Haynes.
Yeah. RD, I was going to mention this too. I was watching the game Friday and watching Cody Schrader just absolutely destroy Arkansas's defense over and over again, and his story is a really cool story in the fact that he wasn't even really offered by anybody coming out of high school, and he went to RD, I can't remember now, some very, very small school up in that area, maybe in Nebraska or something like that. And had a good season, and but wanted to be on a bigger stage, and actually walked on at Mizzou. And I think he's going to win the Burlsworth Award. I'll be surprised if he doesn't win it.
I don't see how he doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you might as well just go ahead and forget the ceremony. Just give it to him right now. What
a great story that is, a story of a kid who persevered, who RD, you hear this a lot, but and we see it sometimes. We don't see it a lot. I'd love to see it more. This is a kid that bet on himself. He put his money on himself and said, I can do this and I can play at that level. Even if I've got to pay my way to start, I'm going to do that at Mizzou just to get a chance. And I think I saw he was like, 4th on the depth chart or whatever, in spring ball. And he just, he refused to let them not see him.
Those are the type guys that will be successful in life. And I tell quite a few of the walk-ons that I talked to through the years, people will see that you walked on and you believed in yourself and you were willing to, start from the very bottom to try to get in a scholarship offer. And not a lot, most of them don't get that, but some that do. I think that just as a resume, forget about football, but on a resume, work resume, if I'm hiring somebody, and I see 2 guys that are pretty equal, but at the same time, and then I see a guy that walked on and put in 3-4 years of getting his head bashed in, working on the scout team, and eventually getting a scholarship. It's going to be hard to turn that guy down.
And hard to root against guys like that too, RD. It's hard to root against guys like that. That's what hard work does for you. But RD, I was watching, and Eric, you jump in here on this too if you want to. But he reminds me a lot of Bo Williams at Shiloh Christian, the way he runs the football, and just not real big, but just he strong. I mean, just a strong runner who refuses to go down after one hit.
With Bo, I think he'll probably start at a lower division school, but what if he continues to have crazy success and he may want to move up and test his talent on a D1 level? Maybe he could be, what we're seeing at Missouri. Who knows?
Yeah, could be. Well, RD, we've got this is kind of a lull as far as this is kind of the quiet before the storm. The transfer portal opens on Friday. We'll see what happens there. Early signing day is coming up, I think, the second week of December. Are you hearing anything as far as this class is concerned? Are they, these 18 guys that have committed, are they all pretty solid? Are there any of them wavering? Or is there any guys out there that we may be seeing to flip into this class based on, who they hire as the OC?
Well, yeah, we're going to find out. I mean, Jaden Ball, running back out of Georgia, who's been committed to Arkansas since I think the spring. He looks like he's going to visit Florida officially. I think next weekend might be something to keep an eye on. But man, if Jimmy Smith's recruiting you, I still like Arkansas's chances there. And talking to his mom, I think they obviously love Arkansas, but at the same time, they're going to visit Florida and see what happens. Everybody else, I tend to think is going to be okay, but you're talking about a 17, 18-year-old young man, and different schools coming at you, and the way Arkansas finished the season. I mean, that can create a little doubt, and it gives the opposing coaches a little bit of a line to feed kids and tell them that Arkansas is going in the wrong direction or what have you. And so I think overall, I think they're in really good shape. And Coach Pittman, he's pretty honest about this. I mean, he said he felt very confident. We're going to find out in December the 20th when early signing period happens.
We will. Well, RD, as always, man, we appreciate having you on. If you want to read more recruiting news, you can catch Richard's column 3 days a week in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. His column is also on wholehogsports.com, so you'll want to keep up with that as we rapidly move toward the transfer portal opening up on Friday. And how that will impact Arkansas, and also as we move toward the early signing period on December the 20th, when there may be some moving and shaking going on with all these coaching changes around the SEC. So you will want to stay on top of that, and the best way to do that in the state of Arkansas is my man Richard Davenport, 3 days a week in the ADG, also on Whole Hog, and you'll want to catch him there. RD, as always, man, we appreciate you being on.
Appreciate you, buddy. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. So we're going to take another break right here, and we'll be right back with Erick Taylor with the Eye on Preps podcast as we take a look at this week's games in Arkansas high school football. We'll be right back.
Stay on top of all Arkansas Razorback sports with a Digital Plus subscription on the Hogs Illustrated app. Get complete Razorbacks coverage in one location. Your subscription gives you 20-plus issues of Hogs Illustrated magazine, the most unique and compelling coverage anywhere in the state, plus total access to all the content on wholehogsports.com, including breaking news, commentaries, analysis, features, recruiting, award-winning photos, and premium message boards. Subscriptions start at just $17 per month. Join the Hog Sports Network team at subscribe.waco.com. That's subscribe.wehco.com. Or call 479-684-5509 to get your front row seat to Arkansas Razorback sports. Go Hogs!
And we are back with the final segment of the Eye on Preps podcast. I'm Chip Souza with the Hog Sports Network, again joined by Erick Taylor of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. ET, man, it is championship game week, 7A, 6A, 5A, 2A. 8-man this week.
Mm-hmm. It's what the kids play for, man.
Yeah.
Kids, coaches, parents, everyone, and they wait for this week. And if their particular team is there, then it makes it that much better.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's start with the 7A state championship game. That will be Bentonville versus Fayetteville. That game will be Saturday at noon at War Memorial Stadium. It seems like these teams have played and met so many times on the football field in the last 15 or so years, and in a lot of occasions they've met in the championship game. ET, I think this is going to be a great game.
It is, man. And when you got two teams that know so much about each other, it's not like they're unfamiliar with what the other does. And you're gonna get a great game regardless. You know, and it doesn't matter who's favored or who's not. When these two teams play, it's always a barn burner, it seems. I think Fayetteville got the better of them this past season.
They did.
Pulled away second half a lot. But I think Bentonville is chomping at the bit. They knocked off the King, last week, and now they're trying to come back and get a little revenge against the team they know a lot about.
Absolutely. They, Carter and I went down in that game with an ankle injury. Fayetteville won, I think, pretty decisively. I think 41-21, something like that. This game's going to be a battle of two outstanding quarterbacks. You got Drake Lindsey on the Fayetteville side. He's committed to Minnesota. He's had a phenomenal season for Fayetteville. So you got him on one sideline. On the other side, you got Carter Nye, who's come back from that ankle injury, and it seems like he has come back with a vengeance for Bentonville.
Yes, man, he has, and I guarantee you, Jody Grant loves what he's seen since he's been back.
Yeah, so that's going to be a great game again. That one noon on Saturday at War Memorial Stadium. Class 6A. This will be a Friday night game, 6:30 Friday night. Greenwood versus Little Rock Christian. Another great game featuring great quarterbacks.
And I was just about to say that another great game with two top-notch quarterbacks. One is already going to be a D1 player. The other one will be when he gets done. Another game that two teams that know a lot about each other. They played in the regular season. Greenwood pulled away to win that one. So Christian will have a little revenge on their minds as well. So this one, again, like we mentioned earlier, it's going to take a lot of points, I think, for the winner to get this one. That scoreboard is going to get a workout, I believe. But it'll be a great game, man, either way.
Yeah. On Greenwood, Kane Archer, he is, by some recruiting services, the #1 rated quarterback in the class of, I believe it's 2026. And he has proven and lived up to his hype all year long. You got him on one side. On the other side, Walker White, the quarterback for Little Rock Christian, has committed to Auburn. He has had a tremendous career for Little Rock Christian, and this is going to should be a great game Friday night, no doubt about it.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't, trust me. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that this one has the makings of being the best one of the bunch this weekend, just because of the quarterbacks and their supporting cast. And then, the get back that Christian has on their mind, and Greenwood's trying to win the title, getting back to the War Memorial again. They're home away from home is what it seems, so it's going to be a great game, man.
5A state championship game is a rematch from last season. Shiloh Christian versus the juggernaut #1, 24-game wins in a row, Little Rock Parkview, and the smashing Patriots.
Another game that a team's trying to get their lick back, man. Shiloh, again, these two teams, again, like you mentioned, played last year's title game. Parkview won it. Parkview has been what Parkview has been all year long.
Yeah.
They've been dominating teams left and right, getting it done. And Shiloh's coming in, again, trying to knock that off. They did a great job last week coming back, beating Pine Bluff. I think Pine Bluff led the game by 16 or so in the second half.
Yeah.
And Shiloh stormed back and won it. So expect another great game, man. Another great game.
Man, it's going to be a fantastic. The 2A championship game, Bigelow versus East Poinsette County. That's going to be a good one. You want to see a great running back. East Poinsette County's Dennis Gaines. He is your dude.
He is the dude, man. But I tell you what, Bigelow, again, and we said this before, Bigelow's been good for a while.
They have, yeah.
Carter Alexander and those guys, man, he's a good running back in his own, but he plays everywhere for that team. But I really do think this game is going to come down to whether or not Bigelow can slow down Dennis Gaines.
Yeah.
If they can't slow him down, it may be a long night. But again, on the flip side, East Poinsette County has to contend with what Bigelow does with their multiple offensive sets, man. So that again, and it may sound cliche and a broken record about the great games, but we're expecting another really, really good game.
And that's at noon. That's a noon game on Friday. Semifinals in Class 4A. You talking about a scoreboard's going to get a workout? Harding Academy at Elkins. That scoreboard may get put out of committee. I may have to bring in another one and hey, this is worn out. Let's bring in a new one.
You know what, man? I think we might have jinxed ourselves last week with CAC Elkins, but I don't think we're gonna jinx it this week by saying that this scoreboard is gonna be flashing quite a bit Friday when those teams hit, man.
Owen Miller for Harding Academy. He runs, he throws, he does it all for them. And man, they are a powerhouse football team. There's no question about that. Elkins has that good balance to Sean Chairs, great running back. Dizzy Dean, their quarterback. This is going to be a great game. And the other semifinal 4A also going to be a great one. Warren at Rivercrest.
And Rivercrest, man, these teams, they played a few years ago in the semis. Rivercrest won. They're back on the same field again. And I know Warren's been there, done that. I mean, they're here just about every year in this round. So they're not, of course, not to be phased. Rivercrest is no slouch either. They've been here several times before as well. That's going to be one of those games. It's going to be cold. It may be rainy a little bit up there. If that happens, I think that may sway in Rivercrest's favor, maybe. But then again, I'm not going to ever bet against Bo Henry
no.
Warren. I've been knowing that guy for, I don't know, 20 plus years. And he just gets it done down there, man. The Warren is a powerhouse program in 4A, and they've been that way since he's been there, man. So that's going to be a knockout, drag-out fight. I mean, I think he's from that part of the state, if I'm not mistaken, up that way. So it'll be a good one, man.
It's going to be a good one. Class 3A. This is going to be, this is another great game. Glen Rose at Boonville. Man, this is going to be who can last stand up to those punches in the mouth that both teams are going to throw.
Yeah, you know what? And I think this game may last 2 hours max.
Maybe, yeah,
maybe.
What's the over and under on passes by both teams? I'm going to say
exactly,
10.
Exactly, man. But again, it's going to be one of those cold weather smash mouth games. I think Glen Rose will probably throw a little bit more than what Boonville does, obviously. But again, two teams that play very, very well once postseason play arrives, and they won't be any different come Friday.
The other semifinal game, a team that everyone expected to be here against a team that is a surprise that they're here, but what a good surprise, Prescott versus Mansfield.
I wonder, how Mansfield is going to handle that added pressure, playing against a team like Prescott, again, that's everyone expected to get to this point. Again, like several of these teams we talked about earlier, they've been there, done that. So they're supposed to be here. And Mansfield is a team that's kind of surprised people along the way, picking up a really, really big win last week.
Yeah.
But they've got another juggernaut, one of the juggernauts in this class to contend with. So I think if Mansfield can come out and withstand the early punches that Prescott's going to throw at them, and they're going to throw quite a few.
Yeah,
that makes their chances that much better. Tough, but again, hey, anything can happen.
Fantastic. And then 8-man, the championship game, Spring Hill versus Rector. I am so happy that we're playing 8-man football in the state. I keep hoping more and more schools will jump in. I would love to see, some more of those schools, especially around the Delta area, come up with 8-man football. Man, I would love to see those schools that are really good track programs play 8-man football, because that, man, you talk about exciting and high scoring. That's what, I want to see more of that.
I'm with you on that, man. I remember talking to Coach Johnson up at Israel County before the year started, and I think they're going to actually jump back to 11-man next season. I'm not mistaken. But we talked about just that thing with so many of these schools around here that just play basketball or track or whatever, that have kids that want to play football.
Right.
And he was hoping to see so many of these schools, like you mentioned, in the Delta areas or down in Southwest or wherever. Get to the point where they're able to play 8-man football, man. And honestly, I like watching it. I love watching it, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
So see teams like, Rector, that's a really big basketball school, Spring Hill, those teams playing for 8-man title. I think it just makes football better.
It does.
Gives a different aspect of the game, and to see how that's played. And I remember my first time I watched it was back in Oklahoma years ago. And I thought how cool that was, I believe. And to see it here in this state, man, I think it's been huge.
I'm from Texas, where they play 6-man football. And if you think 8-man is wild, 6-man is even more wild than that.
That sounds wild.
Yeah, it is. And it's like playing football in your backyard almost, because it's six guys on each side of the field, and it's wide open. And it is not uncommon to see games end up like 85-78, and it's they can be crazy.
You got to be in shape, that's for sure.
You better be. So anything that gets the kids off the couch and on the grass and on the dirt and playing, man, that's I'm all for that. And I love it that now 8-man seems to be growing, and maybe we're adding a couple of schools every year and continue to build that thing up and get more. Let's get more schools involved in it.
Exactly. I'm with it wholeheartedly, man.
Absolutely. So that will wrap up this week's edition of the Eye on Preps podcast. Again, man, E.T., I appreciate you being on here. And if you want to read more about what's going on in the state championship game this weekend, play team capsules and matchups, key matchups, and all that kind of stuff, it's every day in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette and the Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. E.T. and his guys in Little Rock do such a great job. Graham Thomas, his guys up here in Northwest. You got Leland Barclay, Walter Woody, Harold McAvey, and those guys down the River Valley. They are all over prep football. If it moves and it can score, man, these dudes write about it, and they have it.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt.
So, E.T., we'll be back here next week, and we're going to talk about some of these championship games that will be played this weekend, and I am ready to see some great games.
I'm with you for that one, man, literally.
Absolutely. All right, man. See you next week.
All right, brother.